Welcome to the Sawblade 666 YouTube channel. I'm Daniel Sawblade.
And I am Cartoon Ryan.
Today in front of us we have Uncle Scrooge.
Yeah.
Bunch of Uncle Scrooge stories.
Yep. It's one of the many collections I have.
This is published by Fantagraphic Books.
Yes.
I think I saw the copyright date. It's 2017. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I started getting these about 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
The Carl Barks, Donald Duck, and Uncle Scrooge collections, and then I also got Don Rosa ones,
which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Later on another episode.
Yeah.
Carl Barks, man, I've been an admirer of his work for many years, like you.
Yeah.
I don't have anything by him, but I love it. That will change in the future. He's got a lot of stuff. He's very prolific. Lived to be 100.
Almost, yeah, 99. Right? Yeah, he made it. He was born 1901 in Oregon, and he passed away in August of 2000, so almost 24 years ago now.
These books, I'm assuming the same with this one, is a collection of issues.
Yes.
So I don't know how many issues you've got in here. It looks like to be a, 200-page book maybe?
Just about,
almost. So that's a lot of comics in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of comics in here, and some of them are just one-page strips or stories. Some of them are 20 to 40-page stories. So some of them. There's
a section on the back with covers. So I'm assuming there are covers to these.
Yes.
Some of these in here,
and we can look at those covers. We'll look at the first story, which is the Lost Crown of Genghis Khan. And we'll go over that, and we'll flip through some other scenes.
One thing in looking at his work. These lines are very brush-like.
Yes.
And I've got to, not toot my own horn here, but I've trained my eye to where I can kind of tell when something's like a nib or a brush. And back then, that's pretty much the inking tools you had.
Yeah.
We were just looking at his Wikipedia, I think, and he was going over some tools in a letter that he wrote to a friend. And it's amazing to me that he used a nib on this shit.
Yeah, I can read his little letter that he wrote to one of his friends, because he wrote a lot of letters, and he spoke about he was an enthusiastic user of Esterbrook pens,
which I'd never heard of.
He used a number 356 model to ink and letter all the comics that he did with Disney. And he said, here's part of his letter. He said, I used a number 356 Esterbrook art and drafting pen, which could do everything from thin fadeaways to broad accented curve sweeps on foreground circles such as the duck's forms. The trick of breaking in a new pen, I discovered, is to soak it for several minutes in the ink bottle. Then wipe off the ink and the pen's varnish. For some weird reason, most pens then start out flexible and free-flowing.
Here's what he's talking about, and what I've learned with nibs over the years. I don't primarily use nibs for my inking, but I do use them to apply white media occasionally. One trick, what he's talking about, is those metal nibs. They come out of the factory with a kind of like a lubricant on them. And I think that's just comes from the manufacturing process. They just naturally, or they, out of the after the process of being made, they're kind of got that film. They're kind of greasy. So that's interesting to me that's the way he's dealing with, or solving that problem. Because if you dip them in ink and try to draw with them right after that, they don't perform that well. Yeah. But what I learned is if you use nail polish or isopropyl alcohol, just regular rubbing alcohol, and soak them that way. It gets that film off, and then you dip it in your ink, and you're ready to rock and roll. So that's funny that he just went straight to the ink.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I might try that because
and he just wiped it off.
Let me tell you something. That's some of the most crisp fucking lines ever.
Yeah, his line work is just phenomenal. And a couple of quick little blurbs about him before we dive into it. This dude, when he was doing comics, especially back then, working for Disney, you weren't allowed to sign your name on the bottom. You signed Disney's name, or a number was stamped at the bottom so they would know what edition is what.
It was common with cartooning back then.
Yes, especially Disney. And he worked anonymously, well, late into his career. It wasn't until the 70s that people started. It was before the internet. There's a really cool video. If I can find it, I'll pin it in the About section of the video.
We'll pin this book, too.
Yeah, exactly. We'll pin this book where you can buy it, too. But there's a really good interview that someone conducted with him in the late 70s. They found him by just doing detective work before the internet. They would kind of piece together certain things and see kind of Easter eggs he'd lay in his art. But this guy is basically responsible for the creation of DuckTales.
Right.
He created Uncle Scrooge. He created Duckburg. He created just about everything duck related. He created the Beagle Boys. He created, and the Beagle Boys were based off of the Flegel brothers or whatever in real life. So it's really cool. This guy had a huge impact on tons of creators and artists. Robert Crumb read these comics.
Robert Crumb, he influenced movie directors.
Steven Spielberg. If you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark,
the famous scene with the boulder, it comes from
he was a
specific story here. Lucas also.
Yeah, he's a creative powerhouse, man. But yeah, we can crack this thing
let's
open.
take a look at it. I think you know better where the story's at.
So we can just start with this first one because it's a fun story. I'll just kind of summarize it. But this one right here is the Lost Crown of Genghis Khan. So Uncle Scrooge, of course, is a miser. He's greedy. All he thinks about is his money. That's all he thinks about. He gets this cheap pocket watch, and it's the only thing that'll make him fall asleep, surrounded by all his money. He has $1 million, which is like a lot of money back then,
Right.
And he's sleeping in it, and the only way he can go to sleep is by the tick of this clock. Well, he drifts off into sleep because the clock's making him, it's ticking. He drifts off into sleep. Well, around the other side of the globe in the Himalayas, there's a guy running, and he has an urgent message to deliver by telegraph. And this is like in the Hindu Kush mountains in Mongolia.
And can I say something real quick? He was never an animator, was he?
Yes, he was.
He was?
Yes.
So this explains the movement and just clarity of his work from panel to panel. It's very animation cell look, but comics. So I'm just impressed with that.
Me too.
That quality.
Me too, man. And also another thing I always liked that he did were the silhouettes. He did that a lot. But basically, the message finally gets to Scrooge, and what happened was he was after the crown, the lost crown of Genghis Khan, which has like hundreds of jewels on it to represent each city that he conquered when he conquered half the world. And he's freaking out because the crown has been stolen. He's like, well, and being the piece of shit that he is, he's like, well, I need help to get this thing back. You know what? I'll trick my nephew and I'll trick my nephews into coming along with me to help me. They're younger than me and stronger. I'm not going to tell them why we're taking a trip on the plane. We'll just take them there. Right. And so he dupes them into going with them on this trip. And they're like, oh, cool, Asia, mail plane. Cool, we're going to go on a spin. But then they're halfway in the Pacific Ocean. And they're like, wait a minute, where are we going? And he tells them finally what's up.
That's a funny.
Oh,
That's a
dude,
classic face.
he's the best Donald Duck artist ever, man. I mean, there's just no one that can compare. He was born to draw Donald Duck. The facial expressions.
Yeah.
They end up getting to the Himalayas. You know, there's like these yaks with, you know, they're transporting wool and everything, and in one of those bags is the crown. Well, turns out, like overnight, the bags got raided. So that's what they're trying to find out.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
in the meantime, they're freaking out because there's a what do you call them? Abominable snowman.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's ever seen these guys. They're like a mystery. It's like Bigfoot. You know, do they really exist? Well, so and so thinks they saw them, so they're like, "Oh my goodness, we're not going to do this." Donald Duck's like, "Hell no, I'm not going to do this." And then when he's like, "Fine, you know what? In Calcutta, I'll drop you guys off. You can find your way back home." And then he does the old man act, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't let him. You know, he's so old, and he's our uncle. Whatever, we'll go back with them." So they skydive out of this plane into the mountains. They get there, and of course there's like a guard at the watchtower. They're like, "That's the coldest job ever." There's a lot of funny little jokes that the nephews say. They uncover the tracks, which I thought was interesting for tracks for a you know, abominable snowman.
Almost reptile.
Yeah, it looked like raptor claws or something. It was really interesting, and especially you'll see when we get to it how he looks. But like you said, man, the facial expressions are so dynamic. Another thing he does really well, besides the storytelling, is the environments he puts everything in. One thing that I can't get over is these guys were doing this stuff back when we had no internet, so their research had to come from encyclopedias and libraries and just all kinds of materials like
On
that.
the book that it's so funny. I was actually going to talk about that on the book that I brought to review.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover that point on the next review for sure, because I got a lot to say about that. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
it's crazy, dude.
they couldn't look anything up.
They had to read. They had to read.
Off on hand,
Yeah.
and also, excuse me, photographs and books. It's very hit or miss.
Yeah.
Because photography wasn't what it is today on the printed page, and I don't know. It was just hard. I don't know how they got their reference.
They just had to read a lot
know?
too. They had to research. So they get to they start looking at the tracks. The guy covered the tracks so they could see it. They start following the tracks for a while. Look, they have a flag to where they disappeared. The tracks stopped there, and they're like, "Well, how did?" So this guy is mystical. He can make his tracks disappear. Well, they start going up further, and they see the tracks again, and they're like, "Well, what the hell? You know, this is crazy." And they're starting to climb up because they stop about right there, and they're, well, he had to go up. There's nowhere else to go. So they start climbing up, and then boom, they get caved in with snow. And they're like, "Man, we'll just stop here and camp." So they stopped there and camped on these little sleeping bags. And he's like, "Oh, cool, I got my watch. You know, it'll put me to sleep." The ticking makes them fall asleep. They wake up the next morning, someone stole his watch. He's like, "What the hell?" And then there's tracks again. They're like, "That monster stole our stuff." And they're like, "Well, let's have breakfast first or whatever." They go on a hunt to try to get the watch again. So they're like, "We'll go back up and try again." And once again, they get caved in with snow. And they're like, "Dude, this makes no sense. I don't see this guy anywhere." They can't find him. And they figure out, one of the nephews figures out that he covers his tracks by dragging a big fur rug, like a big fur rug, because he's like, there's white fibers in the snow, you know. And then they see this rope, and they're like, "Well, holy shit, we'll just start climbing up." And there's the hand.
Oh wow!
Knocks. Look at that, dude.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, big arm coming out, falls back down. So they're like freaking out, and they're like, "You know what? Donald and I," and Uncle Scrooge's like, "Donald and I will go up and try to find them. You guys stay guard down at the bottom. Call us if you see anything.
You really feel the impact of that.
Yes,
hit, right?
yes. There, and then the impact there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just dynamic stuff, man.
Now, when was this written?
This had
The
to be in the
50s?
50s. Yeah, most of his stuff was in the 50s. The comic book run he had. So they get to this guy's cave and they see all this. He just steals stuff from explorers or just anything that happens to be running around there. And there's like a woolly mammoth tusk. So this guy's been around for centuries. They find the crown or whatever. Donald Duck rags on. He's like, look at this piece of trash over here. And he's like, that's the crown. Oh my God. And he freaks out. They don't see the guy. All of a sudden they get covered up in the rug that they said he was dragging around to cover his tracks up. He walks in with them, and then there he is. That's what he looks like. And the first time I ever saw this dude, I laughed so hard because of the way he looks. Like,
It's really funny.
yeah, and he has like different things attached to him that he's stolen. Like he's got
Looks
a
like
little
busted out boot.
Yeah, he's got a busted out boot there. He's got a skirt on there. He's just all mixed up. He has like a makeshift prison.
Yeah.
He throws him in there. He grabs Uncle Scrooge's hat and is like, "That's perfect." And I like this part. He's like, "That's my hat. My hat has never sat on a smaller brain than that." That's pretty funny. So they're freaking out. They're like, we're going to die in here. What do we do? He's having a great time. He got bored with the hat, but he loves the watch. He's like, oh, man. So he's like freaking out. He's loving the watch. He's dancing around with it. And Uncle Scrooge is like, man, screw this, dude. I'm just going to snap this cage. We're going to get out of here while he's asleep. He grabs the crown. They think they're ready to go. They find out there's no ropes. He took all the ropes.
Oh, wow.
And he only says like one thing the whole time. He just says like
Goo
the whole time. That's all he ever says. So he starts chasing them to the edge. He comes up to the edge and, like, no pun intended, clockwork, Uncle Scrooge points at his chest, and the pocket watch or the stopwatch stops clicking because he could tell that it was slowing down and that it needed to be wound up again. And the dude starts freaking out thinking that Uncle Scrooge is magical.
Wow.
And so he shows him, hey, you know what? He basically does sign language and starts figuring it out. Hey, I know how to make it tick again. If you let us go, you can have it. And they stole the crown back or whatever. They get back home. He thinks he's like the hero. And he's showing this off, and the reporters all that like see him coming off the plane, they're like, okay, cool, we don't care about that crown, dude, we just want to know about that snowman. You saw the snowman? That's what we want. And he's just like, what the hell? And that's how it ends, basically.
That's funny.
And then this is just like one of the one-page stories, like he can't sleep at night thinking about his money because the all he thinks about is his money. The Beagle Brothers, he's worried about them like sneaking in, so he draws like a cop on his window and he goes back to sleep. But yeah, there's tons of awesome stories. The stories are so well written, and I love just the characters, the expressions, the movements. This one was really funny. They go underground and they start noticing these stones that move around. They're trying to figure out why that's happening. They keep coming into them, and I'll show you what they end up looking like. It's really funny. Yeah, these little guys right here, they're called Fermies. They live in terra firma. And they're basically what cause earthquakes and stuff. And like, stuff's cool at first. They're showing stuff off, and it's like freaking them out because they find out they can shift the earth and stuff. And then things go sideways with it, and they have to get out of there.
Little Dr. Seuss quality.
Yeah, really is. It's
a little bit.
It's very.
They also remind me of Nerds, that candy.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. But yeah, man, Barks had quite the imagination. And keep in mind, he wrote all of this. He inked he colored it. He inked. He did everything. I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that. He colored it all. He did everything. He did everything.
I'm assuming these were on a monthly schedule.
I would think so. Either that or at the most quarterly, but I would assume it was monthly. But this is a really long story. This one's about like 40 pages or so. See, it still keeps going.
Right.
But yeah, there's so many cool aspects of his work, man. It's a huge influence on me. And actually, he's one of the first 3 inductees of the Will Eisner Awards.
Oh, okay.
When they did it in 1987 for the first time. So he's one of the original inductees. And then towards the back, there's covers. There's so many stories, man.
Like that boat.
Yeah, boat's cool.
He's really good at just drawing anything.
Yep, he really was. I mean, he could do it all, really.
Real fluid, very, animated looking.
Yep. And one thing I always love is the humanoid type characters always look like canines, kind of have the dog nose with the weird ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, really weird stuff. But let me take you back to the covers. Look at that.
That's awesome. It's a cool spread.
Yeah, man. But yeah, if you're a huge fan of DuckTales back in the day, like I was growing up, man, this is where it comes from. Very loosely based on the comics, though. And Don Rosa, man, he gets really grumpy when when people bring up DuckTales. But look at the line work.
Why?
He does, because the stories are better, and he's like, it's not DuckTales. I know you like the cartoon. He's just a real grumpy guy. But yeah, he's like, he always points that out. This isn't DuckTales.
It's Uncle Scrooge.
It's Uncle Scrooge. It's Carl Barks. It's Don Rosa. But you can always tell his ducks because of the way he does the bills and just the line work. Compared to other artists of the time, he was the best. They called him the good duck artist. You know, that's what the fans called him. Look at his covers, man.
Yeah.
He had it down.
I mean, you want a crash course lesson in cartooning, regardless of what style you're interested in or what you like to draw. If you're looking to get into cartooning or storytelling, it's best to study these. You
know. It really is. And just read up on them. There's interviews with them. You can learn a lot, man, like the pen thing.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I didn't know till we looked up the Wikipedia.
I had no idea.
Yeah, these covers are phenomenal.
Oh, they're great.
They're so simple, but they're so cool too. I love that $sign.
Great just design.
Yeah, the dude could draw. And then you'll see the concept there on the right, and then what he ended up going with. It's really cool, man.
A lot of back matter on the
it has a that's what's cool about these two. It goes into detail on the issues and the stories.
There's the man.
There's
himself.
the man. Yep.
Fantagraphics does a really good job with their books on information added to the meat.
Yep.
I mean they really, you get a lot of extras with them.
You really do.
I love that publisher.
Yeah, but that's just a look into Carl Barks and his work.
Masterful cartoonist.
Yeah.
A great illustrator. His paintings are so masterful.
Yeah. Try to look up his paintings.
He went on to be a painter after his comics career, and actually, I think he took a bit of a break after.
Yeah,
and he became more known with his paintings, if I'm not mistaken, into the later 70s.
After the his being anonymous was lifted and people knew who he was, he shifted into just making money off of it. And he had a big contention with Disney over signing his name on the paintings and stuff. Yeah, he got it worked out, kind of. Don Rosa hates Disney. to this day,
Wow.
because they screwed him over. I mean,
I bet.
and it's a really good documentary on Don Rosa too. You should watch sometimes. But I'll bring it up when we do a review on him.
You know, Robert Crumb told Disney "fuck off" like, a
Yeah,
few
man.
times.
And it's like, I know, like, you say what you want about Disney. I understand like people's hatred of them, but look past that and just study his work, because you will learn a lot, man.
It besides the obviously Donald Duck's a iconic character.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the fact it's such a well-known property.
Yeah.
If you just look at the art, you look at the storytelling, you just see cartooning at its peak.
At its peak, and then you'll also see, like I said, if you're a DuckTales fan or just like a Donald Duck fan like I am, you'll see that this man was pretty much responsible for that whole mythos. Like, he pretty much like laid the foundation for it all. So he's probably
made it his own.
He made it his own, and they kind of just let him do his thing, and it's evident by his work. And he doesn't get
only canon within this. It wasn't like Disney.
Yeah, outside of the comics. Yeah, even the Mickey Mouse comics are good. I have some of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the thing, their comics were better than their cartoons.
Well, yeah.
The cartoons were good.
Well, I think the cartoons were more, especially the shorts in the 40s and 50s were more,
they're
more of a younger audience, maybe.
Yeah.
These, it's pretty sophisticated if you're for a 6-7-year-old.
You got to keep
whatever
in mind,
it's like.
though, too, literacy rates were a lot better back then. People can't even punctuate anymore, or read or write. I mean, people write on third grade levels now.
It's true.
People our age. It's sad to say.
It's true.
But I think Carl Barks doesn't get talked about enough. In my opinion, he should be more. He's known. I mean, he's well known.
Well, he's discussed within. I think if you're a comic dork or an art appreciation person, that wouldn't fly today.
No,
but you're going to be talking about him.
Yeah,
because he's just he's a master.
Oh, dude,
at cartooning.
One of my biggest inspirations of this
day, man. Really clean line work. I like the clarity.
Yeah.
I think that no matter what style you're interested in, if you are a comics maker, you can pull from this for your own storytelling.
Yeah.
I really think it's a valuable thing, his work, to take in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. Thanks for bringing this one over.
I was glad to, man. Cool.
If you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, spread the word. We're trying to grow the channel. It's growing.
Yeah,
actually,
it is.
I appreciate everybody who tunes in every week for a new video. We got a lot more to come.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Check the website out.
And also every Thursday we go live at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Yep.
And we just hang out
and doodle.
Daniel draws, and we just hang out, and it's cool, man. Everybody, we just talk about art, music, and just whatever is going on with everybody, what projects they're working on. So
yep,
come hang out with us, and we'll see you for the next review.
Keep drawing.
Later.